Okay, so a lot of people have been asking me how I get like this sort of motion blur. As you can see, it's very different than what you would get in-game. So I'll just show you my settings here. The short version actually is that the in-game motion blur doesn't really matter. What really matters is your recording settings and how you export the video using frame blending. If you want to basically do it on your own, all I do is I record in higher frame rates than 60, and then I use frame blending to downscale the video to 60 FPS. However, if you do want my motion blur settings, it's pretty much just right here. I just use 5 without old blur, because old blur does not look nearly as good. However, I have had a few people tell me, or my friends, that the motion blur in-game looks ugly, so I'll be pretty much showing you how to get that kind of sort of blur without using any motion blur. These are my settings for video. You don't have to really worry too much about the rest of these, mostly just this, that I record in bilinear fastest but blurry if scaling, and 240 FPS. You can use 120, but do not use 60 FPS or lower. So you do need a pretty good PC to get that kind of blur effect. But as you can see, I have an encoding overloaded because I am recording such high frame rates. So you have to be careful, just mess around with it. You can use 120, 144, any of that stuff, but you just have to make sure it's above 60, which is an issue. So now here in Premiere Pro, I have some proxies, so if I were to play this, you can see that the clips are in higher frame rates. It's hard to tell here since I'm using Premiere Pro, but what really matters is the export settings. I have this preset called 2K, which will export in 60 FPS and have high bitrate and stuff. That's why I have like really crisp clips, but as you can see here, I have frame blending on in time interpolation. You do not want frame sampling, which is what I did. You have to have frame blending. So if you were to export it and then view the clip here, or the montage, you can see that it has a nice blur effect. And if you view, for example, one of these clips, you can see that there's a nice high frame rate here compared, but it doesn't have a blur effect, which is why you need the frame blending setting in the export settings. Anyways, I hope that was a bit helpful on how you get some nice blur effects. Some people have been asking me about that. Hopefully I didn't drag this video out too long. If you have any other questions, I can see if I can make a video on it. So just ask in the comments. Thanks.